Well, hello everybody! Welcome back to G Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert on March 17th, 2020. And I didn't post yesterday, and why? Because the weather was horrible. It wasn't really nasty raining or anything like that, or heavy rains. Did get some rain during the night last night. I'll show you that in a minute, but not much. Just a little bit, and it happened while I was sleeping, but it woke me up with the pitter-patter on the roof, so I heard that. Anyway, what's been going on is winds. Really, really nasty winds. I mean, blowing through here like Hurricane Alley. Anyway, what happened was, one of the things is the rope to my flag broke. My flag got a little bit frayed on the ends, but not too bad. And it came up all of a sudden, and I heard it, and then I heard something was wrong outside. So I went outside just before the rain started moving in, and I found that the anchor to my guy wire had pulled right out of the ground. So that was problematic, because with this guy wire loose, the wind was coming from that direction, and that unit wanted to blow away because there was no anchor here. Well, luckily, this pipe is 3 feet in the ground, so that was holding pretty decent. But you can see it elongated the hole a little bit, so I will be tamping that back together. What I did as an emergency is I came out and I grabbed another 8-foot pipe and my pipe driver, and I drove that pipe 4 feet into the ground on a 45-degree angle. And then I put a tie-down strap, a ratchet type tie-down strap into it, hooked it into the top of the post, and tightened it back down. You can see that's as taut as can be, and it's holding everything in place for right now. So that's a priority job. As soon as the weather permits, what I'll do is I'll end up pulling this the rest of the way out of the ground. I'm going to dig a hole twice the size of it, reset it in the ground, and pour 3 more bags of concrete around there, which be another 180 pounds. And I know that'll work, because just me standing on it yesterday was holding it in place, and the winds weren't able to pull it up. But I will have to make sure I take care of that one. And then I'm going to also do the same to the other side. I haven't been over to check to see if that one pulled up at all, but the winds weren't coming from that direction, so I think it's okay. And the main reason why this is happening is because this soil expands when it gets wet, and it gets pretty soft. Now this one hasn't pulled up at all. This one looks fine. But I'm still going to dig a hole, sink it deeper in the ground, and pour some more concrete over and around it. Just anchor it in really well. But that's a priority as soon as the weather breaks here. By the way, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. March 17th. And yeah, I got my corned beef and cabbage inside the cabin ready to go into the crock pot in a couple hours. But I'm going to use this nice weather time to run into town and pick up another 100 pounds of propane, because with this COVID-19 thing going around, and everybody freak shopping, just buying up everything they can find, I'm sure propane will be on the list. So I called ahead, made sure the place where I buy my propane has some, and he said, yep, come on down, Bear, we're waiting for you. So I loaded up my rack, and I got my 100-pound number 2 tank on here, which was empty, and that'll give me a good backup, because in the winter, in the cold of winter, with the heater running 24/7, and of course cooking and hot water, I use extra hot water for showering, things like that, and laundry and washing dishes. Well, that'll go just under 3 months for that big tank. So once the good weather, like right now, today is a beautiful day. When the good weather comes, the heater doesn't run. I use less hot water because I shower outside with natural hot water from the sun heating up my solar tanks up there. And so one of those that go all summer long for just one tank. And I have 3 of them. I usually try to keep 2 full at all times, but as soon as the cold weather is gone, I always on the 1 month where I have a little extra cash, I always fill up all 3 and make sure I'm going into the winter with 3 full ones, so I never have to worry about that. And down the line, I might even have one of my friends down at Mutual Gas make me up a manifold that I can tie all 3 together, so all I have to do is go out and throw a couple of switches and I'm on to the next tank. And that'll be a nice way to go. All right, so talk about rain. We got rain last night. Well, we went from about 675 to 700 liters, so about 25 liters per tank. That's 50 liters per tank, or for the 2 tanks. And this is the difference right here. That's where I transferred the water to, and that's what I got last night overnight. So it's only about 1.75 inches of water into here, but 1.75 inches equals quite a bit. So I did get that, and then of course, let's see my little buckets down here. Yeah, I picked up a little bit in the buckets. And this one here, you'll see a drip every now and then. That's the water running out of the first flush, but it looks pretty clean right now. There hasn't been any dust storms blown around, so the roof that I put on on those containers when Pierre was here and helped me, we put that silicone roof on there, and that's washed down now, and it's nice and clean. So the water coming off there is nice and clean. I could probably run some of that through a sediment filter and then pump it up to my big tank, but I'd still rather have a 0.5 micron filter to make sure I get all the impurity out of the water before I start using it for washing and laundry and things like that. No, you got to worry about things like that when you're off-grid by yourself. You know, you don't really want to ever be sick if you can avoid it. So anyway, these 2 barrels, I got my transfer in here, and they're both of them are 3/4 full, and these are 50-gallon drums. So that's almost, well, I would say that's 150 gallons right here. So that's nice. And because these weren't full yet, I didn't shut off the valve there, so nothing ran into this barrel. And I did use some of that water the other day for watering the mulberry trees on the outside over there. But I had to move those around the corner because the winds were so bad. It actually blew the trees and their containers over right off the trailer, and you can see the chunks of dirt on the ground there where they fell over. Well, I had to move it over there, so it was blocking the garden house was blocking the wind. But I've got some work to do this year. When those 2 totes empty up, they're sinking in the ground on this end. You can see how this sloped way down to this right-hand corner behind the blue barrel. And I don't know if that's because critters have tunneled underneath it and undermined it or what, but it's definitely going down in that corner. So I will do like I did with the cabin, and I'll pull that all apart, and I'll put a concrete footing underneath it with rebar, and then reset the block on it so it doesn't do that anymore. And the same thing with that one over there. That one's actually leaning towards the garden house for some reason. So I got to get that repaired. All right. That's about it. I was over at the pond. I'm not going to walk over there. All the water has soaked into the ground. There's no water in it right now. So yeah, it's definitely going to have to be lined in some way before I can consider holding water in that unit. And once I do get that lined and holding, when I call for water delivery, there's always some left over in the truck. And what I'll do is I'll have him back up and dump the rest of it into my pond. So that'll cover the evaporation rates that happen here in the summertime. And then if I have 1 month where things are financially a little bit better, then I'll call the truck in with a full load and have him dump it right into the pond and bring the pond up to full level. All right. So I fed the chickens this morning, And while I'm picking up propane today, I'm going to pick up some more scratch because I only have enough scratch for about 3 days left. And my chicken buddies like that. One thing that I've noticed is that Nellie is not brooding, and she's not sitting on eggs, and that's something that you just can't fix. They either do it or they don't. There's nothing that you can do to change a non-brooding hen into a brooding hen. They just won't do it by being taught to do it. There's no way to teach them to do it. So if you've got one like this one that lays an egg and then leaves the nest and doesn't ever go back to that egg, well, that's the where you have to face with it. So you got to get hens that will actually brood. And usually if you have a group of hens, like when I started off, I had 8 hens here. I had 2 out of the 8 that would sit on eggs anyway, even though there was no rooster in the coop to fertilize the eggs. So there's no reason for them to brood, but they would spend all day and all afternoon on the eggs until I brought food. They'd come out and eat and they'd go right back into the nest again. Unless they were going to get the free range, then they'd come out in free range. Well, I have to say that these two keep a cleaner yard than the others, although they don't like the whole kernel corn scratch. They leave all the corn behind. They don't touch it. And I'll have to get the cracked corn one on this trip. And that's okay because it's a couple bucks cheaper. All right, that's all I have for today. Unless I decide to shoot a second video later on today. I doubt it. I'm going to get the rope changed on my flag as soon as I get back with my propane. And it's such a nice day, I think I'll do some work. Like I never do, right? All right, everybody. G-Bear reminding you, give me a thumbs up down there, like my videos. And don't forget, you can leave comments and questions at the bottom. And I want to thank the 40-plus new subscribers and welcome them all aboard. That came on in the last 14 days. That's a nice climb. I like it. Let's keep it up, everybody. We're getting there. And pretty soon we'll be having sponsors coming on to my channel and begging to put their ads on my channel. Don't forget to look for that ad about that pain patch. That thing sounds really good, and I've checked it out on the internet, and it's got good reports from people who have bought it. So that's and they've got millions of them sold. But if you do order one, remember I did order some. They said that it's a 2 to 3 week wait right now because they're so popular. The stock is going out faster than they can make them. I wouldn't mind being that inventor, you know, selling 50-something million of these things at the price that they're getting for them at 60 bucks or 66 bucks each. That's a lot of money. That's called being rich overnight. So anyway, G-Bear signing off.